Hello, and thank you for joining me in the Secret Healer Shed. My name is Elizabeth Ashley, the Secret Healer, and I am talking to you today about diffusing around animals. Now, this has come up because on my local Facebook page, Ludlow Chat, lady called Sarah very rightly shared a tremendous post by a lady called Marianne White. Marianne's dog had keeled over, and the vet thought it might be because she'd been exposed to huge amounts of tea tree oil. And so I applaud both of their efforts in sharing the information. And with that post, there was a long list of essential oils that shouldn't be used around dogs. So normally I would just kind of let this sort of post go by and say, okay, it's not quite right. There's a few niggles here and there that I'm not very comfortable with, but I'd just let it go. However, this post has been circulating for a long time now. Marianne put the post up around about a year ago, this time last year. And since that time, I've had the same email of several people. So I thought I'm just going to go grab the bull by the horns straight away. The first thing that people always do is they say, right, well, I'm not going to use my essential oils anymore because it's going to affect the animals. And absolutely right, you should be thinking about the animals first. But then something happens in the household, which I will predict will happen right across Ludlow later this year. We start to get coughs. We start to get colds. We get winter vomiting virus. Hopefully we don't get COVID. But these things happen, and then people who know a little bit about essential oils go, right, well, the best thing I need to do is to clean the air and really wipe down all of the surfaces, the light switches. We're all getting better at it now. We aromatherapists have been doing this for a long time, using essential oils. You've all got into bleach, fair enough. I'm into bleach. But then you suddenly go, oh wow, but I can't because it'll kill the dog. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is you are not going to kill the dog. So the list, I'll go through in turn. There's a few factors. So the first of all, the list in itself is problematic to me. The second thing is this idea of diffusing tea tree is dangerous to the dog. That is problematic to me. The fact that we have isolated certain essential oils as dangerous, and so therefore some are safe, and therefore that indicates that we don't need to have any diffusion cautions. That gives me issues. So let's start first of all by thinking about the dog, right? So anybody who's got a dog, you may I will say I live in Ludlow. You may have seen me. My house is on Sheep Road. It's the greenhouse attached to the bridge, and the Secret Healer Shed is behind that bridge. And you will often have seen me walking out with an absolutely gigantic staffy. And Bella's favourite thing to do is to sniff the whole world as if it's a newspaper. I mean, she's got her nose right down to the ground and she's reading every single symptom everybody's left her. And the more time somebody's weeding it, the better as far as she's concerned. And so I'm usually pulling her going, will you? Come on. But this is a really interesting thing to know about dogs, and to understand this idea of diffusion around them. So if you imagine that a dog's sense of smell is far more than yours, you might consider that it is 10 times or maybe 100 times bigger than yours. So for a minute, let's use that as a proviso, right? And we say, right, okay, we put 1 drop of tea tree into the diffuser, and let's be honest, nobody ever does. They usually put 5, right? But let's imagine one drop in the diffuser. If their sense of smell is 100 times stronger than yours, they would smell it as if, find the right bottle, a 5ml bottle holds 100 drops of essential oil. So that's not exact science, but you can say they smell it as if you've used that whole bottle of essential oils, right? But actually, science says that a dog's sense of smell is somewhere between 10,000 and 100,000 times more than our sense of smell. So rather than it being this bottle, they smell it as if you put that bottle in the diffuser. We can start to see why Marianne's dog might have felt a little bit poorly, right? So how that happens is, for example, for every sensory receptor we have, scientists think that they have 50 of these receptors. So within a bottle of essential oil, we call this a synergy. In fact, let's use a tea tree bottle. Within this bottle is obviously many drops of essential oil. There should be around about 200 drops, but I think mine's nearly empty, so we're probably looking about 30 drops. But within each drop are thousands and thousands of aromatic molecules. So when we smell it, it's complex. Actually, it smells like dog wee. Mine does now, thinking about it. Why anybody would want to diffuse tea tree unless it was emergency, I don't know. But they smell it in a far more complex manner. Now, in a little while, I'm going to show you a little video of Bella experiencing smelling the essential oil, and you'll see just how strong their reaction to essential oils is. So you can imagine anybody who has been in the Secret Healer's shed, the first thing that they say is, oh, smell it in here. Because, as you can imagine, many, I actually work with 450. Well, no, that's wrong. I have a working knowledge of 450 essential oils. I work with around about 200. But the bottles, the top's on, the top's off, the top's on, the top's off. And sometimes there's not one to hand, but the smelly sticks around where I've been doing creations for people, making sure that I'm happy with the fragrance. So it's full of fragrance all of the time. Now, based on that, you would think that Bella would go, I'm not going in there. But actually, the opposite is true. Bella absolutely loves to be here, lies down, and you can see her nose going as she's experiencing the smell. She loves it. So the first thing to know is that dogs, whilst they are very overpowering, remember that vision, how big that seems to her, they do like the smell. But obviously they want to get away from it after a while. So the most important thing to remember with the diffuser, not necessarily what essential oil is in there. With dogs, with cats it's more subtle. I'll explain that in a second. But with dogs, it doesn't really matter what essential oil is in there. Just remember that we only want it on subtly. Now, actually, in human medicine too, we have guidelines for using the diffuser. You never see it published except within aromatherapy guidelines, but it is. We say leave the diffuser on for 2 hours maximum, then turn it off for half an hour, because even as humans, we become overwhelmed. We become sensitized to the fragrance. And as you can imagine, with this many oils, I used to work in the family business, which was a manufacturing business. And we used to manufacture around about 120 different products. And I would say probably 30% of those had lavender in them, because lavender is wonderful. But you do get very sensitized. You think, oh, that lavender's giving me a headache. You can't smell it like anything else over the lavender, and you become sensitized to it. So there can be a tendency sometimes to mistake aromatherapy as like smelly massage or candles. Well, actually, it's a science and an art. Obviously, I'm going to say that because it's my career. But if you think that my books really talk about how it affects neurotransmission in the body, how it affects hormones, when the essential oils are inhaled, they go to a very ancient part of the brain called the limbic system, which controls your cognition, your memory, your learning, your mood, your appetite, your hormones. All of those things are directly or indirectly related to that limbic system. We can assume that the same would be the true for a dog. So on the most basic level, most of us know that if we have some lavender, we breathe lavender, then it will be nice and relaxing, and that is true. It's a very gentle oil, but lavender has what's called a biphasic effect, which is very seldom spoken about. So what is a biphasic effect? Well, the first thing is the best example to explain it is when you've been out drinking for the night. Now, anybody who's local to me, who knows me, will be laughing now, because my biphasic effect, my level's about one mouthful in, but everybody else can drink a bit more. So I'm going to talk as if a normal person, not me. So imagine we're having a glass of wine and we think, that's taken away the week. Oh, I feel better now, feel a bit looser. Oh my goodness, I'll talk now, a bit less inhibited. Oh, I'm starting to relax, feeling a bit merry. And we're having the second glass of wine and we're starting to go, I love you, you know that, I love you. And glass 3, we're suddenly going, oh, feel sick. Oh, why did I do that to myself? And suddenly we're on a downer. And we all know that expression, the answer is never at the bottom of the bottle. It's probably just like 3 or 4 sips in, isn't it? That is a biphasic effect, the way that we go up and then suddenly the effect changes. And lavender does that. So, for example, we would say, right, for the most part, it is relaxing. But if you use too much, you're suddenly like, it's really stimulating. It's overwhelming. You feel sick, you feel nauseous, you've got a headache, and it is the lavender that's done it. Do we say lavender causes headaches? No, we say lavender treats headaches. Both are true. Both are true. So what we're starting to see here now is, whilst Sarah and Marianne's posts were absolutely correct, they are not the complete picture. There are many nuances to be considered. Another nuance that I want to say to you, because I think that this is definitely relevant with people as well as animals. I don't know enough about animals to say if it was true, but common sense says animals are not as stupid as a lot of people give them credit for. Imagine that essential oils are, everyone's reaction is different to an essential oil completely. I'm always amazed at how different everyone's reaction is. So whilst we have this theme of lavender being relaxing, it is a theme. So for example, if I gave 2 people a bottle of lavender and I said, smell that, the first one goes, oh, that really reminds me of my nan. And the other one goes, yeah. Oh my goodness, that reminds me of my nan. Oh, so that's interesting, isn't it? The lavender has an anchor in the memory to a place, probably a person, quite often a person. Lavender quite often is your nan because of Yardley's lavender. It was trendy. But whether we like lavender with that memory reference is going to relate to whether we liked nan. If nan smacked our fingers because we didn't practice piano, or forced us to eat stuff, or was always shouting at us, or was a bit spiteful, do we like lavender? Probably we don't. That's the first thing. The second thing is that there are many, many, many strains of lavender, and for the most part we use lavender angustifolia. Not always. Sometimes we use lavender latifolia or lavender stoicas. That's the pretty one that we have in our gardens that's got like butterfly feathers on the top. Well, that's high in a chemical group called ketones. Ketones can be really problematic to people who have epilepsy or who suffer sort of psychosis, delusions, paranoia. So imagine then, let's put this into a scenario. It's kind of going into your aromatherapy 101. This is what you would learn at the beginning of your diploma now. If you go into a charity shop and the lady who runs it is so good at it, she's got everything put into colour coordination and it's all, she just got everything great, and she's there every day, she cares about it, but she's realised that sometimes the clothes smell musty. So she thinks, well, that's okay, I'll just put a burner on, I'll put a diffuser on, and I'll put some lavender oil, and everyone will be really calm and relaxed. So you come in now, out of your 10 people that walk in, are everybody going, or is everyone, I should say, is everyone going to feel calm and relaxed when they go in there? What about the person who has got epilepsy that the lady can't possibly know about? How's that going to feel? Might bring on a seizure, definitely can bring on a seizure. What about the person the guy who is homeless now? He's been smoking a lot of weed, and I will punctuate this by saying I've written a book about cannabis and I am a big advocate of cannabis, but I can tell you that smoking weed can make paranoia worse. So if he's suffering, maybe he got early schizophrenia and he walks into somewhere that is burning lavender latifolia, it's not relaxing, is it? It's not going to be relaxing. For the most part of us it is. But the point I want to make is that we cannot predict what will go on around us. We can only do it by experimentation with our own essential oils. And just to as another disclaimer, I don't sell essential oils. I don't care if you go and buy any at all. What I am advocating is you don't just go on what everybody else is writing. So, do we like the smell? This is juniper berry. I do like the smell. I'm going to show you a little video in a minute of my dog Bella, and I'm going to show you Bella experiencing the smell of tea tree, and it's based on the work of a lady called Caroline Ingraham, and this book is called Help Your Dog Heal Itself, and it's about zoopharmacognosy. I've said it so many times now I can say it. But what zoopharmacognosy says is that animals understand the plants far better than us, and that dogs are tuned into smell, so aromatherapy is tremendous for them. But we don't need to put the oils onto their body, and they will tell us which ones they like. And in actual fact, if you look behind me, you'll see there's a stag. The stag is my logo. That is where the stag comes from, actually. Long before I learnt this, I found out that deer, the ancient healers would follow deer to see where they were munching the herbs, because those were the best herbs that the stags could sniff them out. So animals are not stupid. They will tell you if they like it or if they don't like it. So I'm going to show you now Bella sniffing the oils. Okay, so this should be interesting because Bella does anything but behave herself in these situations. But if you have a look at her nose, you'll see that it's slightly twitching and she's already licking her nips. And that is because I've got an open bottle of essential oil in my hand where I'm holding the camera, so she can already smell that. So I'll see if I can get her to do it. So if I put it near her, let's see if I can get her to interact with it. You see how watch your nose and watch your eyes. Her eyes start to close as she starts to decide, oh, do I like that smell? So look how close that is away from her. Yeah, she can already smell it. I can't smell it from this distance, but she can. So if I put it closer to her, we'll see what she feels about that. If she doesn't like it, she'll turn her head away. You see she's thinking about it. Yeah, I quite like that. No, I don't want to. No, don't move it away, Mum. Too close. See? Now, dogs actually can do something called zoopharmacognosy. And if you're interested in that, you want to look for a lady called Caroline Ingraham. And she writes about how they self-medicate themselves
Finished, Belle? She says, yeah, no, I've had enough of that. And I'm going.
So she did a runner, didn't she? So this is something that you should know about your diffusion. You need to have the door open, because whilst the dog won't mind you diffusing, he will get so it's had enough. And the same applies for cats. They will want to leave. You need to be able to let them leave. Okay, so let's do a little bit of a recap what we know now. We use very small amounts. We use for at a maximum of 2 hours a time, with at least a half an hour break before we turn it on. Know that your dog has probably between 10,000 and 100,000 times stronger than you. So if you are diffusing in the living room, he or she will smell it in the bedroom. So don't go and shut them in the bedroom. It will be just as bad for them. So just make sure that they can get out. The second that they say they want to go out the house, then you do need to let them go out, regardless of whether you feel really poorly or not. However, I have to say, I have many years of experience with aromatherapy. I have never felt the need to buy a diffuser. Diffusers are very strong, and I use an evaporator, and if I was any good at my job, I would have put one beside me to show you. But basically, you've seen them. It's got like a candle underneath in a little bowl, and you put some water in the bowl, and you put 1 drop of essential oil in, and you put the candle under, and that diffuses. That's the word we use. That diffuses through the room. However, that is an evaporator. Evaporators are much more subtle. There's not such an assault on anybody's senses, and as such, you don't need to have this 2 hour break, this half an hour break. So that's better. That is better. But for the most part, I find that using essential oils topically or using essential oils as inhalers is a much better way to go, and from all aspects of aromatherapy. So let's just quickly think about the tea tree for a second. One of the reasons why this has come to light is the vet felt that the dog had too much exposure to tea tree, and that can definitely happen. Whether it can happen through a diffuser, I think it's more likely that the dog was shut in and the problem was that there was no break from the diffuser rather than it was the tea tree. But if we're going to use tea tree topically, then we need to be really understanding how much is the right amount to use. So tea tree for an adult, we would say, has a maximum dilution of 3% if we're using it for aromatherapy. So if we wanted to say how safe it was, well, actually we can go much higher than that. We can go 10, 15, even 20% dilution. So it's a safe oil to use. But on an animal, we need to go much less because their livers cannot metabolize that much oil. So your guidelines would be between 0.1 and 1% dilution. Why would we want to put it on a dog? Well, for example, Bella had a terrible cut on her back. She managed to run up onto the railway line and then catch herself on some barbed wire and severed the right way through her back. Awful. Thank goodness for Team Vets putting that right for her. Well, obviously we needed to make sure that that was nice and clean after she'd had a big operation. So I was using a lavender water and little bits of tea tree on around, just to make sure that no infection could come up. Likewise, if she's got runny eyes in the winter, I use a very weak dilution and sponge her eyes. And now, when she first came to me, she had terrible canker in her ears. And she would be like this for ages. And I had to train her that essential oils are good for ears. So now she sees it come out. She sees my big bottle of olive oil. And then she comes and she knows she'll get a biscuit. So then she'll give me a second ear and she'll be quite happy to do it. And this indicates to you that she doesn't mind the essential oils at all. She knows that immediately the itching will go down. I use lavender, thyme and tea tree together in a really weak dilution. So how do we do 0.1 to 1%? So if we imagine that a teaspoon of carrier oil is 100 drops, actually that's quite accurate. We say we've got 20 drops in a mil and 5 mils would be 100 drops. So 1 drop then would make it 1%. So we could say as long as we do between sort of 5 and 10 teaspoons of oil, that's a lot, isn't it? So we could say that's like a dessert spoon, and a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons, 3 tablespoons. We're just diluting it more and more and more. But anything from 1 tablespoon to more dilution is going to be absolutely fine. And then we just use that safely on the skin. The oil is not going to hurt her if you've diluted it enough. The smell is not going to hurt her, and she is going to benefit from the antimicrobial action of tea tree. And likewise, let's go back to what I was saying about COVID. If you start to see these bugs and germs coming into the house, or nits, then tea tree is wonderful. Please don't worry about the dog. Use it carefully. If anything, think about the diffusion rules for the family. We don't want it on all of the time. The next thing is, I wonder whether Marianne's dog was asleep. So this is just like a wandering thought, really. Humans, did you know, we can't smell when we're asleep. That's why we have smoke alarms, because we could sleep right the way through the smell of the smoke and just stop being able to breathe. We would be choking because our sense of smell doesn't work at all when we're asleep. Hence why we have a noise alarm. So if Marianne's dog had been shut in for a long amount of time in the room and had been asleep, don't know. Still don't think that would be a really keen to say that was not a normal response for a dog. So just before I go, I want to talk a little bit about using essential oils in a different way, because like I say, I don't use diffusers. I do write lots of diffuser recipes, and I would use an evaporator quite often in the house, but not a diffuser. But for the most part, I just use essential oils like this. You're not influencing anybody else around you, and perhaps this might become something that you would like to do. In the case of COVID, I think it's an extraordinary ritual. I'm very into rituals to be able to start doing for yourself. We all know now that one of the signs of COVID is that we can't smell or taste. So being able to use an essential oil to test that is a very, very powerful tool. Tea tree would be the best one I can suggest to you. It's antimicrobial, antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral. Let me just stress, antiviral doesn't mean it prevents you from catching the virus. It means it stops it from spreading in the system. So let's just first of all think about that. So what I do each day is I go, hold my breath for 10. Now, can I smell it? Yeah, I can smell it. No COVID today. Also, I go, that's doing 2 things. The first is that it's drawing the aromatic molecules. Bear in mind, it's the aromatic molecules, not necessarily the liquid that does all the good, down into my lungs. I also go, yeah, I can taste that. Didn't need to put it in my mouth. I can taste the aromatic molecules. So the good news is no COVID here. So we also know something about a couple of other oils that will be very helpful to you in this time. So the research shows that garlic essential oil, but don't do that. Oh my goodness. The dog will not thank you and you'll not thank yourself. Better ones, geraniol and citronellol, which are in many, many different essential oils, but particularly geranium and citronella. may be able to prevent the spread of COVID through the system. We're seeing that in a petri dish, in a test tube, not in humans yet. But if I explain the science to you, you can see where I still am using those oils myself. So it relies on the science of a receptor called the angiotensin converting enzyme. We know that as ACE2, so you might know about ACE2 inhibitors. We know that COVID spreads through the body through the ACE2 receptor. ACE2 is a membrane protein, so it lives within in lots of different parts of the body, but is highly prolific in the mucous membrane in the nose. So hence why when we breathe it in, it can proliferate, spread so quickly. But the thing is, the interesting thing that was a bit of a puzzle to begin with is we don't actually naturally have that many ACE2 receptors in our lungs. So how was it affecting the lungs so quickly? We now understand that it hitches a ride on a blood protein called bradykinin. So what we want to be able to do is to stop that interaction if we can, and it looks in a petri dish like geraniol and citronellol will be able to do that job. If we put it into a diffuser, will we see a similar action? Well, yeah, you might, probably on a much weaker basis for spreading it across everybody else and inflicting on everyone in the rooms. However, if we use geranium, what we'll see is this delicious relaxation of everybody in the room. Okay. If we use citronella, however, it's much more invigorating. So if you put them together, that's quite confusing to begin with. Much better, rather than using your diffuser, to sit and do this, because you are bringing the molecules up into your mucous membrane immediately. So I could sit and do that with geranium all day, and it's in your first line of defense. Can we legally say, can we ethically say that it will stop you getting COVID? I wouldn't want to say that. Wouldn't want to say that at all. But am I doing it? Yeah, I am. Because it seems to me the science backs that up. So hopefully you found that interesting and you think, right, okay, I feel more confident burning my tea tree. Please do. You know, if you get a cough or a cold in the house, you can safely, without worrying about your dog, cleanse the room. Please put a few drops of your tea tree on your flannel, on your washing up cloth, and wipe over the toilet handle, the light switch, the door handles, the banister, all of those things. And know that the dog will really be able to smell them. They'll be able to smell it enough there. So make sure the door's open for them to be able to go out. Incidentally, I am going to put slides up at the end of this. And those of you who are saying, yeah, you said you were going to talk about cats. Well, cats are more susceptible to essential oils than dogs. They struggle to be able to metabolize a chemical group called phenols, and so there are lots more oils that you have to be careful with around cats. Do we need to be careful diffusing them? We do, but not so that we don't diffuse. So first of all, I'm going to put a slide up of those essential oils, but also I'm going to suggest to you go and subscribe to my Tongues of the Trees channel. They're free videos that come out weekly, focusing on a particular oil each week. And we do 2 videos. We do one about the physical medicine, so how we would use it on ourselves in an emergency situation for like first aid. And then there's a second video, which is also free, which talks about the emotional, mental, spiritual aspects of the essential oil, how to blend it, but also the safety. And on the safety, we specifically say, is this oil safe for a dog? Is this oil safe for a cat? Is it safe in pregnancy? Is it safe for children? And we go deeply into it in there. You'll be able to see specifics there. So hopefully I haven't rambled on and you've thought, oh, I didn't know that, I didn't know that, I didn't know that. You've learned something. If you have, if you find it interesting, please subscribe to both my channels. On this one, I do a more broad section kinds of stuff. On the Tongue of the Trees, I only do those kind of videos. So, also, if you see me out and about in Ludlow with Bella, please do say hi. I watched your video, because this is quite nerve-wracking for me. I do go all over the world lecturing, but I deliberately avoid talking to people on a local basis because it makes me terrified. But I really do want you to be able to know that you can safely use essential oils. If you become ill over the winter, you don't need to worry about the dog. Likewise, have a look on my website, thesecrethealer.co.uk. You can download my book, The Complete Guide to the Essential Oils of the Physical Body. You can download that for free on Amazon. And also, I do half an hour free consultations before I take people on as clients. So if you have an emergency situation and you think I need some advice, feel free to book in and have a chat to me there. So I think I've covered it all. Thank you for listening, and thank you for caring enough about your pets and your family to use essential oils safely. And I hope you've enjoyed my down-to-earth medicine.